Hello and welcome to the Queer Sober Social podcast. We are so excited to be here. We are your chill social group of LGBTQIA+ folks who want to do more with their lives than just drinking.
Whether you identify as in recovery, sober curious, or just wanted to be sober while you're listening in, we're really happy that you're here.
Since this is our first episode, we wanted to start off by introducing ourselves and what we're all about.
So, without further ado, let's get this started.
My name is Carly Novoselsky, and my pronouns are she and her.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rajiv Khattar. My pronouns are he, him.
We're super excited to be here and putting this on to share the stories that we really needed to hear when we were first coming out, when we were first figuring out sobriety, and just the kind of life that we wanted to live as adults. So telling those stories now and really hoping to put the word out there for anyone else who needs to hear it.
How would you even describe what the Queer Sober Social podcast really is all about?
Well, we are queer, and we use the word queer as an umbrella term for a reclamation of what was used to be a slur against queer people, and we're kind of just taking it now and wearing it as a badge of honor.
Well, another part of the Queer Sober Social podcast is that we're also sober. And there are a lot of places for people who are in some sort of recovery or in some sort of step type program or some sort of thing like that. We're trying to bring together just a lot of like-minded people who are just trying to be sober or just who happen to be sober. And it really doesn't matter if you don't drink often or you never drank, or even if you are in recovery or you just don't want to drink right now, like while you're listening to us. That's great, and you're all welcome.
We are not the sober police. We are not the queer police. Whatever you're doing right now, whatever place you are in your life, you are exactly where you need to be. You are sober enough to be listening to this podcast. You are queer enough, and you are enough. So we cannot reiterate that enough. Finally, the last piece of our puzzle for the Queer Sober Social podcast is that we are social. We are a supportive group in a community that has formed over time, but we don't consider ourselves a recovery group necessarily. But we're always happy to give out referrals and network for references if you need it. But we are more focused on, just how becoming friends and kicking back and getting to know each other and what our lives look like as sober and queer people in the world, because we have as plenty problems as everybody else does, and it doesn't change.
Our goal is to have some sort of podcast come out every other week. We have jobs, so unfortunately this is not a full-time thing. And whenever we can, we're trying to get some guests who come from all over the place, different walks of life, different backgrounds, different experiences, because even though the intersection of queer and sober may feel small, it's actually bigger than you think. And we want to make sure that we're providing you a little bit more of that perspective of just how big it really is.
As you can all see, if you're watching us, this is also a video podcast. So hello to everyone that is here, and thank you so much for being here.
I know that we mentioned that we're a queer sober social group, but really it's for everybody in a lot of ways. It's all sorts of identities, but more specifically, we are focusing on the queer and sober community. If you just want to break from some of the drug culture or some of the drinking culture or some of the other culture that tends to be a little prevalent in the LGBTQ community, you like this podcast. I guarantee it.
That doesn't matter if you identify as in recovery or if you're just sober curious or just even questioning your identity. This is the place to be, because we are non-judgmental. We are so open to everything. So it's really, really a safe place to come and just be yourself and discover and explore who that is. This is definitely a podcast that I needed when I was figuring all this stuff out. So we are going to be making that content readily available to whoever else out there is at the beginning of their journey, maybe the middle, maybe been doing this for a long time and you can relate to us. So we're just super, super excited to be getting queer sober content out there that you all are needing.
Whether it's queer, whether it's sober, whether it's social, we're going to find something and talk about it. Just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Queer Sober Social Podcast, and take care.